Miss McDowell, stop right there.
Who the hell are you?
Yes,
What
no,
is this?
We know about the $3 million you stole from the state program.
Alicia McDowell. $3.3 million stolen. Hundreds of children's subsidy slots faked. 48 months in federal prison. This is the moment it all came apart.
You can't just walk up on me at my own business. I want to see a warrant right
If you
now.
don't comply with my orders, I will tase you,
I
ma'am.
dare you. I
My
want
lawyer...
you.
8 years of fraud. 7 co-conspirators. $3.3 million stolen from a state program designed to help working mothers afford daycare. And what finally brought it all down was a $237,000 pearl white SUV parked in a reserved spot with the word "Director" painted on the curb. Federal prosecutors would later describe it as the most expensive receipt in Illinois Department of Human Services fraud history. Alicia McDowell drove it to work every single day for 16 months, directly past the children whose subsidies paid for it. Before we go any further, when you saw that Bentley in the parking lot, did you think something was wrong? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you're not a subscriber, let's change that. Alicia Monique McDowell was born in 1979 in Harvey, Illinois, a working-class suburb on the south side of Chicago. Her mother, Yolanda, worked the second shift at the Sherwin-Williams paint plant on Halsted. Her father was not a consistent presence. By the time Alicia was 6, it was just the two of them and her younger brother in a 2-bedroom apartment on 147th Street. The daycare her mother used was in the basement of a neighbor's house. $10 a day. No license, no curriculum, no background checks. Just a woman named Ms. Charlene, who watched 8 kids while their parents worked. Alicia would later tell investigators she remembered Ms. Charlene fondly. She made a pound cake every Friday, and the children got a slice if they had been good that week. She graduated from Thornton Township High School in 1997. She was organized, confident, and unafraid of paperwork, traits that would define the rest of her career. She enrolled at South Suburban College that fall and completed an associate's degree in early childhood education in 2000. Her first job was at a Bright Horizons in Madison, starting pay $9.75 an hour. She lasted 18 months before being promoted to lead teacher. By 2003, she had moved to a larger facility in Country Club Hills as an assistant director. Her performance reviews from that period described her as a strong organizer, reliable with documentation, and highly professional with parents. One reviewer wrote that she has a real understanding of how the licensing paperwork needs to be handled. In 2005, Alicia opened her first center. She called it A and a Kiddie College, the double A named for her mother Yolanda and her late grandmother Alberta. The facility was a converted dry cleaner on Sibley Boulevard in Calumet City, Illinois. She was 26 years old. She had taken out a small business administration loan for $41,000, signed a 5-year commercial lease, and personally painted the walls in 3 shades of primary color the weekend before opening. She had 6 children enrolled on her first day. The state subsidy program, officially the Illinois Department of Human Services Child Care Assistance Program, or CCAP, paid licensed child care providers directly on behalf of low-income working families. A single mother earning under the program's income threshold could enroll her child at a participating facility and pay almost nothing out of pocket. The state reimbursed the provider at a set rate per child per day. For a facility like Kiddie College, it was the difference between staying open and closing within a year. By 2008, Alicia had 14 children enrolled and a waiting list of 9 more. She hired her first full-time staff member, a cousin, Kiana Smalls, who would go on to manage 3 other facilities under Alicia's ownership over the next decade. By 2011, she had opened a second A&A location in Calumet Park. A year later, she opened Creative Kids Academy in the Chatham neighborhood of Chicago's South Side. Creative Kids 2 followed in 2014 in Auburn Gresham. Creative Kids 3 opened in Roseland in 2016. 5 centers. Over 200 children enrolled across her network. Roughly 80% of them funded through CCAP. She was, by any external measure, a local success story. She had been profiled in a community newspaper under the headline, "From One Room to 5 Centers." She had received a commendation from the Calumet City Chamber of Commerce. Her mother, Yolanda, now retired from the paint plant, had been given a small administrative role at the original A&A, answering phones 2 days a week, proud to say her daughter owned the place. From the outside, everything Alicia McDowell had built was the American dream on a working-class South suburban scale. From the inside, almost none of it was real. The Illinois Child Care Assistance Program was designed with working mothers in mind. A parent who earned under the program's income eligibility threshold in 2019, roughly 200% of the federal poverty line, could apply through a community agency called a Child Care Resource and Referral Office. Once approved, she was issued a certificate good for state payment at any licensed participating facility. She would select a provider, enroll her child, and pay only a small copayment. The bulk of the daily rate was paid by IDHS directly to the provider. 54,000 Illinois families used the program every month. The rate structure worked like this. For an infant under 15 months, the state paid roughly $46 per day in the Cook County region. For a toddler, $38. For a preschooler, $34. A single full-time infant enrolled for a standard month represented approximately $1,000 in state reimbursement. Multiplied across a network of 5 centers and 200-plus enrolled children, the math added up fast. Enrollment was reported by the provider. Attendance was reported by the provider. Staff wages and operating expenses, relevant because they determined the facility's tier of reimbursement, were reported by the provider. Income eligibility verification for parents was documented through pay stubs, income verification letters from employers, and tax returns. The system had exactly one audit control. Every 2 years, a provider was subject to a routine file review by IDHS. An auditor could request enrollment records, sign-in logs, and a random sample of parent eligibility files. The auditor was not usually a forensic accountant. The audit was not usually adversarial. The auditor's job was to confirm that the paperwork on file matched the claims submitted for reimbursement. If the paperwork looked right, the audit closed. Inside IDHS, staff had been raising concerns for years about the inherent weakness of this system. Attendance could be fabricated. Income verification letters could be written on fake employer letterhead. Pay stubs could be generated from any computer with a spreadsheet program and a printer. The audit trusted the documents in the file. It did not verify whether the documents reflected reality. For a licensed provider who understood the system from the inside, there was exactly one way to turn that weakness into millions of dollars. Enroll children who did not exist. Submit income verification documents for parents who did not exist, and make sure the paperwork in the file always matched the claims going out. The first fraudulent claim went out in October of 2012. Investigators would later pinpoint it to a specific submission batch from the original A&A Kitty College location in Calumet City. A 2-year-old listed as enrolled full-time. A mother listed as employed at a warehouse in Harvey that had closed 6 months earlier. Pay stubs attached. Income verification letter attached, signed by a name that did not exist on any employee roster anywhere in the state. Monthly reimbursement claimed roughly $700. It was approved and paid within 31 days. From that first successful claim, the scheme grew the way every long-running fraud grows, incrementally, almost experimentally, as each successful theft emboldened the next. 1 fake child became 2. 2 became 5. By 2015, Alicia had developed a working process she would later refine across all 5 of her centers. The process worked like this. A real parent would be approached, often a single mother already using the facility, someone who needed money and trusted Alicia. She would be asked if she had a niece, a cousin, a goddaughter, a child of a friend who could be listed on her application. The real parent would be told the state payment went to Kitty College, and in return the real parent received a portion in cash, typically $200 to $400 a month. the child did not have to attend. The child often did not exist on any legal document in the state of Illinois. The real parent simply had to sign the enrollment forms. The fabrication was handled in-house. Alicia purchased a payroll software subscription under the name of a shell company called Premier Placement Services, LLC. She used it to generate pay stubs for the fictitious parents who were supposedly employing the even more fictitious dependents. The employers named on the pay stubs were real businesses, some closed, some still operating and unaware, whose names could be verified in a cursory online search. Income verification letters were written on letterhead Alicia, designed herself, and signed with fabricated HR manager names. The real genius of the scheme, according to the FBI affidavit filed years later, was the distribution. Alicia did not submit all the fraudulent claims from a single center. She distributed fake children across all 5 locations, timed submissions to match her actual enrollment cycles, and kept the per-location fraud rate low enough that no single facility would statistically stand out. Across the network, at any given time, there were between 25 and 40 fabricated enrollments generating state reimbursement. She needed help. Over the course of the scheme, Alicia recruited 4 of her center directors into the operation. Kayana Smalls, her cousin, now running Creative Kids 2, was the first. She was given a raise and told the extra children on her rolls were real, but had transportation issues. Latrell Booker, who ran Creative Kids 3, was recruited next. He was told a similar story, and his paychecks began reflecting a modest but consistent bump. 2 additional directors at the A&A locations were eventually brought in, including one who would later testify she had figured it out within weeks and chose to stay quiet because she needed the money. Each director was paid a monthly stipend in cash, $2,000 to $4,000, depending on the volume of fabricated enrollments at her facility. None of it was ever declared on a tax return. The scheme generated, at its peak, roughly $45,000 a month in fraudulent state reimbursements. That is $540,000 a year, for 8 straight years, and none of it was going into the business. The catalyst was not a parent complaint. It was not a whistleblower. It was not a disgruntled employee. It was, in the end, nothing more dramatic than a cross-reference query run by an IDHS program integrity analyst named Evelyn Duran, 2 years into a 3-year grant-funded pilot aimed at reducing fraud in state assistance programs. Duran's assignment was narrow. Her team had access to the CCAP enrollment database and a limited cross-reference agreement with the Social Security Administration and the Illinois Department of Employment Security. She was authorized to run queries on active CCAP enrollments to confirm that the parents listed as employed were actually verifiably employed at the employers claimed on their income verification documents. She ran a query against the A&A Kitty College enrollment roster in March of 2020. 17 of the 42 enrolled children had mothers whose listed employers showed no record of them on state wage filings. One of those employers had been out of business for 4 years. Another had never existed. Duran flagged it and pulled the other 4 centers in the network. The same pattern appeared. Over the combined 5-facility network, 91 of the listed parents could not be verified as employed at the employer on their file. Several of the income verification letters were signed by HR managers whose names returned 0 results in any professional database. The case was referred to the IDHS Office of Inspector General in April of 2020. By June, it had been escalated to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Chicago field office. By August, IRS criminal investigation was involved. By September, a federal grand jury had been convened. And by October, the investigators were no longer looking at the paperwork. They were looking at Alicia's lifestyle. Stories like this disappear from the news cycle in a week. If you want to see more accountability coverage, the kind where we follow the money and name the real victims, subscribe now and hit the bell. We are just getting to the part where it all comes apart. The Bentley was registered to a shell company. It had been purchased in cash, a single wire transfer from an LLC called Harvest Holdings Group to a dealership in Schaumburg, Illinois, in June of 2019. The vehicle was a brand new 2019 Bentley Bentayga, pearl white, upgraded interior package, driver assistance technology package, panoramic sunroof. The purchase price with taxes and fees was $237,412. Harvest Holdings Group had exactly one member of record, Alicia Monique McDowell. Once investigators had the Bentley, they had everything. A subpoena to the dealership produced the purchase documentation. A subpoena to the LLC's bank produced account statements stretching back to 2013. A steady flow of funds from the 5 child care centers into Harvest Holdings, followed by withdrawals for a home in Mokina, purchased outright in 2016 for $645,000. A second Mercedes for her mother, a Louis Vuitton spending pattern, designer handbags acquired by the dozen, private vacations, jewelry, and the Bentley. Total deposits into Harvest Holdings over the life of the scheme, approximately $2,900,000. Not $1 of it declared on a tax return. With the financial picture mapped, investigators moved on the staff. Kiana Smalls was approached at her apartment in Dolton in October of 2020. She was shown a spreadsheet reconstructing 36 months of fabricated enrollments across her facility. She cried for 40 minutes and then agreed to cooperate. Over the next 6 weeks, she produced text messages with Alicia going back to 2017. The text messages were devastating. Alicia to Kiana, March 14th, 2018. Add 3 more to the Chatham roster for next month, same pattern as before. Shania's cousin can sign. Kiana to Alicia, March 15th, 2018. Got it. She wants 500 this time, not 4. Alicia to Kiana, March 15th, 2018. Tell her 4, or we find someone else. This is not a charity. Alicia to Kiana, June 2nd, 2019. Audit coming in September. Go through the files on A to J and make sure every pay stub matches the letter. No formatting errors. Check every date. The thread stretched across 284 messages. Every one of them had been preserved in iCloud backups Kiana had never deleted. Latrell Booker, approached 3 weeks later, agreed to cooperate within a single interview. 2 additional directors followed. By December of 2020, the government had 4 cooperating co-defendants, a forensic accountant's full reconstruction of the scheme, the entire Harvest Holdings banking record, and a paper trail connecting fabricated enrollments directly to Alicia McDowell's personal accounts and lifestyle purchases. The smoking gun, when the indictment was eventually unsealed, was not a single document. It was the Bentley, parked in a reserved director's spot outside Creative Kids 2, registered to a shell company funded entirely by state money meant for poor children. Driven past mothers every single morning who were being told there were no open slots for their own kids, because the roster was full of children who did not exist. The arrest came on the morning of March 7th, 2021. Federal agents executed simultaneous warrants at all 5 facilities and at the house in Mokena. IRS, Criminal Investigation. Special Agent Chiara Volkov, a 9-year veteran of financial crime investigations, led the team that entered the parking lot of Creative Kids 2 in Auburn, Gresham at 11:15 in the morning. Alicia had just finished a walkthrough of the toddler room. She was walking toward the Bentley with her keys in hand when Agent Volkov called her name. What follows is drawn from the body cam footage later filed with the court. Agent Volkov. Alicia McDowell, stop walking. We need to talk to you. Alicia, turning sharply, keys still in her fist. Who the hell are you? What is this? Agent Volkov. The $3 million you stole from the state subsidy program. We have it all. Alicia, stepping forward, voice rising. You don't just walk up on me at my own business. I want to see a warrant right now. Agent Volkov, holding up a folded document. This is the warrant. Hands off the vehicle. Alicia, pointing, shouting. You need to back up right now. This is my Bentley. I bought this with my own money. She was handcuffed 17 seconds later. The Bentley was seized on scene and loaded onto a flatbed within the hour. Inside the vehicle, agents recovered her personal iPhone, her work iPad, 3 separate checkbooks belonging to 3 different shell companies, and a manila folder containing 214 enrollment forms. All of them for children whose social security numbers returned no match in any state or federal database. The folder had been on her passenger seat. The federal indictment unsealed on March 8th of 2021 ran 41 pages and charged Alicia Monique McDowell with 11 counts: wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy to defraud the United States, money laundering, and 3 counts of subscribing to false federal tax returns. The indictment was accompanied by a forfeiture notice seeking the Bentley, the Mokina house, the contents of 11 bank accounts, $71,000 in cash recovered from a safe in her closet, and 46 luxury handbags. 7 co-defendants were charged alongside her. All 7 pleaded guilty within 6 months. Alicia was represented by Hans Lieberman, a Chicago defense attorney with a long record of federal trial work. Lieberman attempted a motion to suppress the evidence seized from the Bentley. The motion was denied in a written opinion that described the government's probable cause as, quote, overwhelming. The case never reached trial. In November of 2023, Alicia entered a plea of guilty to all 11 counts before Judge Manish S. Shah of the Northern District of Illinois. The plea agreement stipulated to total fraud proceeds of $3,339,563 and left sentencing to the discretion of the court. The sentencing hearing was held on March 14, 2024. Assistant United States Attorney Piper Lindquist called 3 witnesses. The first was Denisha Womack, a single mother of 2 who had been turned away from Creative Kids 3 in 2018 because the roster was full. She had worked 3rd shift at a meatpacking plant in Aurora, Illinois, while her 4-year-old son stayed overnight with a neighbor who charged her $400 a month she could not afford. She had been on and off state assistance ever since. Her testimony was quoted in full by the presiding judge. Denisha Womack, victim impact testimony. I needed a slot. They told me every slot was taken. I believed them. I found out later some of those slots were for children that never even existed. My son is 7 now. I cannot get back those years. The second witness was Tanisha Rutherford, whose toddler had attended A and a kiddie college from 2015 to 2017. She testified about the chronic understaffing, the rotation of undertrained aides, the visibly overcrowded rooms. She had assumed the conditions were the result of tight margins. She had not known the facility was simultaneously generating hundreds of thousands a year in ghost enrollments. The third witness was Evelyn Duran, the IDHS analyst whose query had started the investigation. When it was Alicia's turn to speak, she stood, looked down at the table, and said, Alicia McDowell, sentencing allocution. I am sorry for the hurt I have caused. I made terrible choices. I was trying to provide for my family. Judge Shah's sentencing statement ran 8 minutes and was later published in full by the court. Judge Manish S. Shah, sentencing statement. Ms. McDowell, this court has heard a great deal of testimony about what you built. I want to be clear about what I see. You did not build a childcare business. You built a conduit for stealing from a program that existed for one purpose, to help working mothers who could not afford what you were selling. For 8 years, you operated a sophisticated, coordinated, continuing fraud against the state of Illinois, with the active assistance of 4 employees you corrupted, while simultaneously turning away real parents who needed the very slots you were filling with fiction. You spent the proceeds on a house. You spent the proceeds on a Bentley. You came before this court today and told me you were trying to provide for your family. The record shows you were providing for yourself. The sentence was 48 months in federal custody, 3 years of supervised release, and restitution in the amount of $3,339,563 payable, jointly and severally, with the 7 co-defendants. The Bentley was forfeited and sold at federal auction for $178,000. The Mokina house was forfeited and listed for sale. The handbags were cataloged and auctioned in batches. Alicia surrendered to the federal prison camp at Bryan, Texas on June 11, 2024. She is scheduled for release in the spring of 2027. All 5 of her child care centers have been permanently shuttered. The real children were dispersed across other providers over the course of a single chaotic month. Many of their families, already operating on the margins, did not find replacement care in time. Denisha Womack's son, the one who never got the slot, turned 8 the week Alicia reported to Bryan. That case made my stomach turn. But the next case on your screen right now is the one I honestly cannot stop thinking about. Click it.